Hey again, everybody. Chris Conklin here with the Chanute channel, and I'm very happy to have as a special guest with us today a gentleman that I can relate to in many ways. You might remember we've had Emily come in from the college and talk about various productions and acting for stage. And as you know, mine's more acting for camera, but
right.
You understand both.
Yep, a little bit of both.
Welcome to Chanute. You're brand new here, brand new to the college. Dustin is now the new director of the theater department at the college.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we talked a little bit beforehand, and, and we have very similar pasts.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of gathering. So it's always nice to meet a like-minded spirit.
Filmmakers have to stick together.
Absolutely, we sure do.
We're a dying breed due to smartphones and YouTube.
Yeah, and this whole digital age is something else. You know, the
is.
way it's changed filmmaking. You know, it's almost anybody now can pick up a camera and make a film and put it on YouTube, and it's just wild stuff. So it's exciting, but it's a change.
The term filmmaker definitely took on a completely new meaning.
Absolutely, it sure has.
Yeah. Like you said, anybody with a camera and YouTube is a filmmaker these days.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I just read an article. It's by Steven Soderbergh, a filmmaker, who said now to this generation of kids who want to invest all the money in film school, he said, don't waste your money on film school. Go buy a book on digital filmmaking, get yourself a digital camera, and just start doing it. And I said, it's kind of genius. That's good advice.
Yeah, I've taught film school. I've taught acting. I've taught modeling for camera. I mean, the modeling was some stage work, but not theatrical like what you're getting into now. But yeah, that's the same philosophy I had. I mean, you can easily spend $40,000 to $80,000 going to film school or what I call, and then the people outside of this little arena would be offended at very expensive fantasy camp.
Absolutely.
You get to play with some very expensive toys. You get to be around all the big environment. But in my opinion, because I've worked there and you've seen it too.
Right.
All they're doing is selling you a bag of goods.
Absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. And, and even sometimes I'll tell my actors, people who come to me and want to get into the business, and I can tell that maybe the academic work, isn't the best fit for them. I say, if you really want to do it, go to a major city, go to a Chicago or a Los Angeles or New York, take some acting classes, like go observe people.
Sometimes reputable.
Yeah, absolutely. From reputable teachers, absolutely. And go out and experience life, go travel. Sometimes that's the best, that kind of experience is the best actor training a young artist can have. So
the hands-on is what really is going to give you the experience. It would be best to actually utilize some of those funds that you would take to a film school to get to a certificate that's going to do very little, if anything, for
Absolutely.
you. And then use it as living expense for 2 or 3 years while you're gaining real-time experience.
Absolutely.
Working on projects, volunteering to help out here and there.
Making those connections that are so important in our industry.
And when you look at the credits at the end of a movie, I mean, they're never ending. 80% of the people that are on those credits, that's their pay. That's the only thing they got out of all that work that they put into that film. But that's their resume.
Yeah, you are definitely correct. And yeah, it's a fascinating industry. One I wish I would have spent a little bit more time in, but I got a taste of it, and it was a lot of fun. And I like the confines of teaching. I like working with the students. I'm more of a nurturer, so kind of making that segue from the professional world to the academic world's been kind of a really good thing for me. In the summers, I still like to try to go out and do freelance professional work just to kind of keep my foot in the door.
Right.
But I really do enjoy the work I get to do with the students in the classroom. I mean, that means the world to me. So.
Yeah, and it's a passion. It's something that you can teach them the techniques, but you cannot teach them the passion of it.
Absolutely.
They have to grasp that themselves.
Yeah, and hopefully. With my arrival, that's my job. I want to ignite that spark in the students who are interested, for them to either, enhance, even if they're going on to become a high school teacher and teach theater, just to kind of enhance that and develop that creative spark that's just essential to what we do. Some of my kids are going to go on to be nurses. We have a tremendous nursing program at Neosho County Community College. I don't need to tell you that.
One of the top ones in the state.
Absolutely. And so maybe some of these nurses, by taking an acting class, can learn like empathy skills and ways, bedside manner techniques, which is becoming a big deal actually in the theater and in medical industry. We're kind of synergizing to do that. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of transferable skills in theater, and I think a community college, having a theater program in a community college really benefits that, because yeah, it's just
as important as having a ball team or sports program.
You said that right. You said that right. Not to say that I don't really enjoy the baseball team and the volleyball team and basketball team. I think that's a lot of fun, and it's I'll tell you, it's just a tremendous environment there. I have been to a lot of different academic institutions, but I can truly say that I have never felt so much support as I have, especially in the initial weeks at the school from my colleagues.
Dr.
And
Embody
staff.
has done a terrific job in running that school, taking it out of the hole and putting it up on top.
Yeah.
And he's fully supportive of all of his staff and his program.
He sure is.
So,
and it's nice, to walk across campus to meet him head on, and for him to smile and shake your hand. Like oftentimes at a four-year institution, you'd never see the president, but he's such an active presence on campus, and he's so supportive of the arts and what we do, and I couldn't ask for anything more. So I'm so grateful and excited to be here in the Chanute community. It's really great. So
we're looking forward to a lot of exciting things.
I hope so. I hope you like what we put on the.
It sounds really exciting.
Yeah, we've got an exciting season, I think.
And Emily was good. She was
a
good teacher. She really knew theater a lot, but she didn't understand the actual dynamics between talking to a camera and talking to an audience.
Right, absolutely.
And that was one of the things that really excited me about you coming.
Yeah.
Is that you've done both.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you understand what it is.
Yeah.
And I've had minimal stage acting experience. Most of mine has been in front of the camera and behind the camera. So I like to feel 360, evolved around how it's done and comfortable in front of the camera as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things that you alluded to, which is both in sports and in the arts, is that it builds your self-confidence and identity.
Absolutely. In that, and I've noticed this, my generation, we didn't really have access. I went to the University of Kansas for my undergrad, and this would have been in like 1994 to 1998. We rarely used the internet. I mean, it was still kind of a new thing. Like I can remember going to the library 4 times and getting on what we called the World Wide Web at that point.
Yep.
And
AOL.
Yeah, we still went to the library, and so it's crazy now. And I noticed a drop off in creativity with young people nowadays. It's like we went from a generation that used to do things with their hands and make things, and now we're in just kind of a different place. We're consumers, and so when you get kids into acting classes or art classes for that matter, it's like so foreign to them. And so hopefully, art teachers like myself, and I think Brad from the art department at the school, we reignite that spark, to actually make something. And when I see students, create a character or do a scene and come off and feel like they've really made an artistic statement, to see that gratification, that joy on their faces, I mean, it's amazing because they've made something. They've made a piece of art instead of being a consumer of art, and it's so exciting. So yeah.
And it's a love-hate type of a field, and love-hate passion. It's something that you work towards, you build it up. It's got this climatic aspect, and then it's over.
It's over. Yeah, it's so funny you bring this up because I was just talking to one of my new students, and it's like we put all this work in for a month and a half. We sweat, blood and tears and the whole 9 yards, and building sets and costumes, and we build and build to this climax for opening night. We have our show, and then the next Sunday morning, it's over. And it's a weird feeling. It's like you're saying goodbye to a really dear friend, and there's a lot of emotions that go on with that. And And so, yeah, it's just one of those unique arts, you know.
It is.
You know, with film, like, you know, I mean, we have a permanent record, you know, of the work that's done. But theater is a live thing, and once it's done, you know, and that's really a huge difference, and why I value both mediums, because it's nice to go back and look at my film work, and then, you know, so yeah, it's very interesting, the similarities between the two, but the vast differences between the two, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important for students or anybody that has interest in the acting to do both.
Yeah.
And experience what the differences are. I mean, if you go to a drama class and go, oh, I don't like this, I'll never be an actor, I can't do this, well, maybe you're more suited as a camera actor.
Absolutely.
And if you decide after both of those, like, you know, I don't like being an actor, period, I don't want to be on stage, I don't want to be in front of a camera, but I like the industry, then we belong behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, become a producer, a director, camera people, or those are all highly skilled, creative minds.
You know, that reminds me, it brings up an interesting story about kind of my trajectory here is, you know, when I went to the University of Kansas, I got my BGS, a Bachelor's of General Studies in Theater and Film. But my main aim was to be an actor. So, you know, I moved away from Lawrence, and I tried the acting thing, and I just kept on hitting my head against the wall. But I knew that somehow I wanted to stay in the field. And so, you know, I eventually pursued a degree in design. And that's what kind of kept me in, you know, in the loop of things and kept me connected to the art. And what's so strange is that, you know, the acting side of the business is so inundated with people and talent, you know. Everybody wants to be an actor, but very few people want to be a designer or on the, you know, or on that, you know, crew or. And
there's actually a lot more involved behind.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Being part of a crew.
And more consistency in terms of employment as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting ready to say that there's a lot more work.
Yeah.
Involved. You can stay busier. Once you get to a point where you can get paid.
Right. Right.
It's off and on. You know. You've been doing it a long time. I've been doing this for 25, 30 years, you know, but I would still do it for free, and I would still dedicate a full 3 to 6 months to work with somebody like Spielberg,
oh my gosh,
Lucas,
yeah.
Anybody like that. I said, whatever you want. I just want to be associated with your project and observe.
Yeah, you know, one of the highlights of my life, and I'm not, you know, I'm not exaggerating here. As a young freshman at the University of Kansas, was working on a film by Robert Altman, Kansas City. I don't know if you remember that film.
I've heard the name, yeah.
Altman was a Kansas City native and a real icon filmmaker for me. And so to be able to do that was just one of the best experiences of my life. You know, and I've carried that with me ever since, to kind of stand behind the camera and watch his directorial style. And then, you know, and how much that's influenced what I do today as a director, it's priceless. Yeah. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and you know, the director is the vision.
Right.
And you gotta, as a director, paint that vision to an audience or to a camera or to a screen, you know, without paint. But then you have to rely on a lot of people to help make that vision come to life. We're talking about the lighting crew, the set design.
Oh my gosh!
In film, it's the cinematographer.
Right.
If you don't
Costume department.
If you don't have a good cinematographer or a good director of lighting,
you're in trouble.
It's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with sound, the audio people, and they apply to both theater and to the film side or the camera side, because you need good lighting, you need good sound, and you need good design.
You're definitely right there. You know, I think that's why I love theater and film so much, is that it's a collaborative art form. You know, when you get artists and technicians together and you start bouncing ideas off each other, you know, and everybody gets a chance to kind of contribute, and, you know, I love that teamwork, that idea of ensemble. And that's something in fact, our first rehearsal for Frankenstein was last night, and I said, I don't want you, I told my student actors, and we actually have another faculty member who's going to be in the play, which I'm really excited about, but I told my group of actors, I said, don't think of yourself as a cast. That kind of suggests some kind of hierarchy. We're an ensemble here, we're a collective, and we collaborate together. So, you know, I like to take into account everybody's views because everybody sees different things, and I guess I'm really democratic in that sense. And
well, I mean, if you go to New York, which is very dominant for theatrical,
absolutely,
you're part of a what is it? It's some kind of group. I don't remember what they call it, but you're part of that group.
Yeah.
LA.
I know what you're talking about, and it's not coming to my head.
Yeah, it's not coming to my
head.
Well, it'll come up about midway through
right.
all this. And then you go to LA, it's more dominant film.
Oh, yeah.
Camera stuff. So.
And then you've got Chicago, which is improv and stage and, you know.
A lot of everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kind of a mixing pot.
You know, so you're part of the cast, or you're part of a crew in a filmmaking environment, but you're part of the group in a theatrical environment. And a lot of times, especially if it's a traveling troupe, your cast also is the crew.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been in that situation. In fact, you know, I worked a number of years summer stock theater, and I'm telling you something, that's the case. That happens in more cases than not. You know, it's funny to see, you know, your lead actor helping on a quick change with an actress, you know, to get her on stage in time, and it's just funny. I mean, it's like, you know, it's interesting to see these actors put their pride aside and really, you know, contribute to the team. And yeah, it's like, it's, you know, there are so many people involved in a film production. You know, you know that. With theater, I think it's a little bit easier to kind of create a sense of family. And again,
there's a lot less people that are involved.
Right.
You're working in a confined space, and there's not as much to deal with. You don't have all the cameras and all that other stuff. Once your lighting and everything is set, it's done.
Right.
You know, it's
You're
like,
exactly
okay,
right.
strike this set, we're going to shoot here. And
yeah.
now you got to redo everything.
And it's great. You know, you can take 3 or 4, well, in some cases, 20 or 30, you know, shots of the same scene, and you get to pick the best elements out of that.
Yeah, with
Whereas
theater,
in
you got one shot.
You got one shot. So
and you're hoping that the critic isn't there on that
that's
night.
right. But I think that's the exciting thing about it too.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm trying to teach my students now, which is really foreign to them because a lot of them are 18-year-olds and they're coming out of high school and they've had really great high school teachers. But this idea of being able to respond to what the actor gives you on any given night, and you may be working, you know, across from a partner, and he or she has a certain delivery of the lines or an attitude or a point of view about the lines one night, and it can completely be different the next time.
Right.
And as the partner, you have to be ready to respond to that in a truthful manner. And so my actors are starting to kind of get this idea, and I'm starting to kind of plan it. What's great is that, you know, the American acting tradition, you know, it's kind of the genesis from Stanislavski to Strasberg, you know, it's really that theater training has really worked well in film because it's so internal, so yeah, the crossover is so interesting to me. You know, like, you know, what has theater borrowed from film? What has film borrowed from theater?
Well, obviously, theater has existed for centuries.
Yeah,
where film has not. You know, we're talking late 1800s. You know, before the evolution of any kind of movie picture, and then the talkies and that type of thing. But yeah, a point that you bring up in that crossover is I had done a lot of filmmaking, a lot of movie work when I lived in Florida.
Okay.
And
I'm from Florida. I went to graduate school in Florida, so yeah,
okay.
I love Florida. You say Florida, I get really excited.
Yeah, there's lots of work in Florida.
There sure is.
Lots of productions in Florida. If you want to learn, if you want to get experience, and you have some money to live on, a great place to go.
I agree completely.
Because a lot of independent filmmakers live in Florida. They're constantly doing something because it's cheap to live there.
You're right, yeah.
You're not stuck on all the rules and all the unions and SAG and all this kind of stuff. So there are film schools there. If that's the route that you want to take, that's great.
Florida State has one of the best film schools in the country.
They do, and I would say that yes, I would agree with that. I would agree with UCLA.
Yeah.
But if it's a film school, you're getting a fantasy camp.
Yeah.
I'm just sorry to say that, but there's better ways to do it. Do you want a degree in it to go further on yourself?
Right.
Like you want to get a master's in it,
and
maybe
PhD.
become a doctorate. Yeah.
Yeah, and be a film theorist.
And be a professor. But, if you go to a major casting, there's not a producer out there on a big scale project that's going to ask you what film school or what modeling school did you graduate from. They're going to ask you, what have you done lately, and what is your biggest project to date?
Right.
Is, well, I made this as a film school student.
I
They're not interested in that.
Agree with you 100%.
That's why getting real school information and skills, and even more so, the networking.
Yeah.
Because work gets you work. And the more active you are in that, the more you'll keep busy. And to the point where you're going to have to decide which project are you going to work on, because they overlap each other. And trust me, and you probably try to do this too, you cannot work on more than one project at a time and do it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they have completely different senses about it.
Yeah.
The easiest independent, low budget, actually I call them no budget films. You work for pizza a lot.
Yeah.
And the easiest film and the most common genre is the horror film.
Yeah.
The
oh my
suspense,
gosh.
the thriller, and that it's easy to do. It doesn't require a lot of high skill effort because it's easy to cover things.
Absolutely.
But then it's an opportunity to get going someplace.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, it's so funny. Originally, I had wanted to do a stage adaptation of Night of the Living Dead.
Oh wow!
And it's still it's still on the back burner somewhere. I don't know when it's going to happen. I think I have to grow the department a little bit more and make some more connections in town.
Do you feel that you might have missed that envelope of opportunity, though? I mean, the zombie craze is kind of winding down.
It is. I've noticed that. Like there was this huge, explosion of zombie mania, and that's another. It's interesting you bring that up because I was like, yeah, in a way, this is kind of dying down a little bit, and when I had to adjust due to sheer numbers, it was one of those things. I was like, oh man, I hope I haven't missed, that window of opportunity. However, when I mention zombies in front of my students, they still seem to be able to
still light up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's another nice thing about being in a central Midwestern portion of our country is that we're behind, and while, the zombies may be dead, so to speak, on the East and the West Coast, they haven't quite died off here.
Well, yeah,
because, the same thing with fashion trends and different times like that. It's like every part of the country has their own phase or element, and then sometimes they don't get this far. Yeah. Sometimes they die, like Valley Girls and all that kind of things. And you mentioned the Valley, and to the people probably anywhere in general, you say, the Valley and the West Coast, you're going to think of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, yeah.
Where the real Valley used to be in the heart of California.
Yeah.
And it was the preppies of the 80s.
Yeah. No, totally. I totally get what you're saying there. It's an interesting, it's interesting how things have changed, But, also, one thing that I've noticed about living here, now I grew up in Northeast Kansas, so, going off to the East Coast, working out there, I knew what I was getting into coming back. I really love Kansas. I love that Midwestern, disposition. It's so nice when you're like driving down a road and somebody waves at you. You have no idea who they are, and they wave at you.
Just a friendly wave.
You forget those niceties. You really forget and take that for granted. And I think one of the things that I've learned is as I talk to audience members in Southeast Kansas, is that you don't have to dumb down things for people. They want to be challenged, and one of the things I want to assure the Chanute community and the Neosho County community, is I know what's appropriate for our audiences. I'm not one of these directors who's going to push buttons, but I would like to challenge our audiences intellectually. And I think people are hungry for that here, and I think we underestimate, the intellectual I guess, nature of Midwesterners. People say we're flyover country, and I'm like, no, audiences here are just as hungry for good theater as they are in New York or, Chicago. Or
around here they probably would consider it entertainment.
Absolutely.
They're starved for some decent entertainment.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be New York style or LA style or
No,
Chicago
no,
style.
no, no, no.
It just has to be entertaining and something that they can relate to.
Well, yeah, and a way for the audiences to get away and to just escape and kind of leave their problems at the door for a couple hours. Hopefully not a couple hours. I like to keep things, our audiences are changing too. Attention spans are completely different than they were, even 10 years ago. You know that.
We
like
have
getting
less and
kids.
less time to capture.
Well,
their
right,
attention.
getting kids to watch The Godfather.
It won't happen.
It's
today.
not going to happen.
And that's, I call that falls into the golden classics.
Yeah,
For me,
yeah.
I mean that's in the '70s. Most of the younger generation, they don't even know who Marlon Brando was.
And it's so funny you say that because I showed a clip of Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire. I was trying to show an example of method acting, Lee Strasberg and his approach to performance. And here I pull up as a contrast Charlie Chaplin in that very performative style, demonstrative style of acting. And then I wanted to show him, okay, after that, we have
evolution.
The evolution,
acting.
and Lee Strasberg's invention of the method. And I showed him a clip of A Streetcar Named Desire, and they're kind of looking at me, and they're like, "What's this? What's this?" And I said, "Okay, we've got some work to do. We've got some work to do." Like I had to kind of go back and remind them, all right, Tennessee Williams, one of our greatest American playwrights. Marlon Brando, definitely one of our best American actors, just a treasure. And I think they got a little excited, so maybe they'll go out and check it out. I hope so.
Yeah, with characters like Brando, he had his own style.
Yeah.
And he never broke away from that.
No.
Where you get other actors, they try to break loose into multiple genres.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are successful, a lot of them aren't.
Like a Daniel Day-Lewis, that's a person who can just totally transform. And I think Johnny Depp does that to some degree.
Johnny
too.
Depp is real good. He's probably one of the better ones of today.
Yeah, I agree.
Can do that. There are a lot of others that have the ability. Some of them hurt themselves, and that type of thing. But one of the ties that sticks with me the most, I think, I mentioned that I went from from Florida on the East Coast. I had spent 7.5 years, just came off of production. I was burnout. I knew that burnout was there.
Oh my gosh, I've experienced that.
I had to get
myself.
away.
Yeah.
It was time for me to get away. So I made a complete opposite. I went from Florida, I went over to the West Coast.
Yeah.
I knew LA was out of the question.
Yeah.
One, it was way too costly to live there, and even though I knew people there, getting on projects, I did not have the network to get in.
Yeah.
And I mean, the best I could do is, make my contact that I had over at NBC.
Right.
Is to maybe get backstage to see a show being made. That was it.
You planted your roots in Florida, and it's really hard to go back and do that somewhere else.
Well, and again, when we're talking about L.A., you have unions to deal with.
You do.
And if you want a paying job, you got to be in the union, and it's a catch-22, because in order to get an agent, so to speak, you have to have work.
Yeah.
But in order to get work, you have to have an agent.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And that's what a lot of the talent and the actors and the actresses, they don't understand that.
Yeah, you have to earn those points.
You've got to, and you got to pay your dues. And there's the fairy tale stories about being in the right place at the right time. That does happen. It's happened to me before. It's short-lived. But I left the filmmaking, heavy filmmaking, reality TV, the whole gambit there. The reality TV part was probably that's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, I can imagine. I hear about these Kardashians and all that stuff. It drives me crazy.
I couldn't work on that, but it was something. It was larger than that, but it is. seeing, and I've worked on several reality TV shows, but after working on them and then seeing them on TV, that's not what happened.
Right.
I was there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's just like, okay, you're putting in 12, 16-hour days around the clock until they're done with that, whatever it is that they're doing at that point. So I kind of burst my bubble a little bit.
Kind of jaded a little bit.
Yeah. So it's best not to know how reality TV is made because it's not real at all.
Yeah, yeah.
It's probably the most fake
Right.
TV that there possibly can be. Because you're at the liberty of the editors and the directors on what they want shown.
It's a constructed reality.
Yeah,
really
it is. So then I ended up over on the West Coast, and I decided to go to Las Vegas because
there's a lot of work in Las Vegas.
that's what I thought. So I said, yeah, there's a lot of work. I got on about 3 small projects, and it's just like, okay, I'm back to square one again with
Reestablishing contacts.
yeah, and then it's just like, okay, the student films, this and that, and it was okay. I worked on about 3 or 4 of them, but the mentality and the culture between Florida and Vegas and LA was like the difference between night and day.
Yeah.
And I got an opportunity to work on West Side Story as a crew member.
Oh, wow.
And it's funny because this is the tie that I'm going to make to that, is coming out of the filmmaking and becoming a stage crew member on West Side Story.
Right.
You know, I'm sitting here watching this, and what comes to my mind is like, my God, are these people overacting?
Right.
You are such an overactor.
Right. Yeah.
And then, you know, it's just like, that's when it dawned on me, the aha light is like, oh, there's a huge difference between stage acting and acting for camera.
Oh my gosh, it's night and day.
And the people that are hardcore stage actors cannot be film actors and vice versa.
You know, I agree with you there. You know, you have to, you know, you're playing to such large houses. You know, we can watch a movie, or what seems to be more common now is even Netflix. We can watch that in our living room, and we have that immediacy of the performer, the story, and the audience member. In theater, you are performing to somebody, you know, in some cases 50 rows back. So naturally, that's going to increase the size of your gestures and facial expressions, and it becomes a real physical thing, you know, stage work. Whereas, you know, as well as I do, you know, you can get in really tight, you know, in film, like really tight with very minimal movement, and it's just about the subtle nuances. So you're right. I mean, I can see where you would have that reaction of like, oh my gosh, these, you know, what have I walked into here? You know, it's like melodrama, you know.
Yeah.
But what the interesting tie is, as I go back to this, is that method approach. I'm not a method actor. I'm more of a Meisner approach guy. But that method acting technique that was originally developed in the theater, that smaller acting, how you can trace, how you see how it influenced film, you know, and that very real style of acting. I mean, it's. I argue it got its genesis in film or on stage, but you know, yeah, I definitely can picture you seeing West Side Story and being like, oh my gosh, this is completely different than what I'm accustomed to. Although I would say probably on reality shows you saw a lot of over drama, a lot of overacting, and that kind of, or a lot of over the top.
Yeah, I mean, in working on a reality TV show, you spend a lot of time doing nothing.
Yeah.
There is a lot of drama. You don't know when the drama's going to come out. A lot of times the drama is staged.
Yeah.
And in order for the drama to really come out and look believable, you can't act it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So usually there was only maybe 1 or 2 people that was in on the drama. Like the producer said, I want you to go out and do this to this person.
Oh,
and see what it does.
Right, yeah.
You know, and then that's it. And then
it's like a lot of manipulation, it sounds like.
Yeah, there is. There is an enormous amount. And that bothered me.
Yeah.
On a couple projects in particular. I didn't agree with what they wanted. But, you know, that's part of doing the show.
Oh, yeah.
You got to do the show.
You're getting paid to do a job.
And yeah, it's really interesting. But if you ever get an opportunity to go out and work on a project like that, again, if you've never done much, if you don't have 3 to 5 years under your belt, you're working for food.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're getting a very valuable skill set.
Yeah.
And maybe an opportunity to do something that most people don't, and it gives you a different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's just like my wife puts it, I've ruined TV and movies for her because when I see them, I look at them from a critical standpoint. I know the errors that are made. I know the continuity.
You're looking
done,
at
and it's like, oh, you see that, you see that, you see that, you see that, and you know, now she's become more
critical,
in tune to it,
right?
You know, and she's pointing stuff out to me now, and I said, well, just take it for its entertainment value.
Yeah.
And says, you've ruined all that for me now.
So it's like you guys almost swapped roles.
Yeah, you know, but now we're balanced. You know,
yeah.
that we can take it for.
Well, I think that's important to have a critical eye towards film. I mean, you know, like you know, to do that. I think you can be both entertained and, you know, and have that critical eye. I think I think that's important, you know.
Yeah, and you know, just like it is on stage, we talked about attention span. First of all, you only have a few seconds to get their attention. Then the more critical and the tougher job is to keep their attention.
Yeah.
And if you can keep their attention for 20 to 30 seconds at a time, you're doing really good.
Well, yeah, and you know what's really interesting is I have noticed in the last 5 years the incorporation of multimedia into stage performance. The idea of having something filmed being played on stage, you know, being projected on stage as actors kind of interact in that. Mm-hmm. So, and I think this is kind of a great thing. You're going to see that in the production of 1984 that I do. It's going to be very Brechtian in the sense that we're going to really use projection, you know, with Big Brother, those kind of things, and try to do some kind of high-tech media interactive elements. And I think that the theater kind of has to change to not mirror or reflect film, but use what works about film. Some of these elements, yeah, and incorporate that into what they do to keep us still relevant. I mean, theater will always be relevant. I hope so at least. But we also have to, you know, remember we're in the age of the small screen. People can, pull up a YouTube video on their phone, and it's not like when we used to go to the movies. You know, we'd see it on the big screen. It was an experience. Now people are watching movies on little telephones, and I'm like, how can you experience Gone with the Wind on a little tablet? You've got to see it, you know.
And there's certain films that need to be seen on a big screen.
Right.
And there's certain productions that need to be seen on a stage.
To
fully grasp the concept of it all, or to really get it all absorbed in. And probably the best, more current example of that, even though it's not that current, it's probably 20 years ago now, is the movie Titanic.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that in the theater 3 times, and it captivated my attention, and I enjoyed it, but when I got it on video, I could not watch it on the TV.
A whole different experience.
And I have yet to be able to sit through that whole 3 hours and 45 minutes of that movie, even though back then I was captivated.
Yeah.
It's because that is a movie that needs to be seen on the big screen so that you can capture it. And I think that is also true with disaster films.
Yeah.
And you need to be wrapped into that.
Yeah, you have to have that epic experience, you know, the size and scale of that. Totally, you know, watching these disaster films and stuff, you have to have, it just doesn't have the same impact on a little bit of screen.
I mean, you know, you've got to have that, 100,000 watts of rumbling that shakes your seat, and all this 32 million speakers that surround you. That's how you get totally involved into it. Well, at home, you might have a surround sound system, but you got this open area. You can't focus correctly.
Yeah.
And it makes it a little bit more difficult.
And you also miss that communion with the other audience members. I think that there's something magical that happens when, on stage and in film, when you are in an audience and you're with other people, and you're breathing in the same air as the as the performers on stage, or in the case of film, you're taking in these moments together. It's this collective kind of thing. It's people coming together. It's like a community coming together, and you miss that at home. You know, you can, you know.
There is a huge difference because it's on stage. Your job is to capture the heart and soul of the person sitting out in the audience.
Right.
And once you've got that, then you've got them around your finger.
Right.
Okay? Because now they've related to you and that character. And it's real to them. It's a lot more real. The society today has become so immune to reality because of all the Netflix and all the movies.
Redbox.
You know, it's just like Hollywood isn't even Hollywood anymore. Most films are not even made in California.
Yeah. They're being filmed in Romania, or you know, or in Canada, in Vancouver. I mean, Canada's getting
Canada's got
most
a
of our
lot
best
of production.
work.
Yeah, most of Hollywood has gone to Canada.
And it's the tax incentive, and you're starting to notice it though in the United States. People are getting smart, and states are starting to give those tax breaks to these film companies to bring the business back. You know, you know.
A lot of people are very surprised to learn that the state that makes the most films every year is Louisiana.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's not California. It's not Florida. I mean, yeah, they make a lot of films there, but the highest number of box office films, major motion pictures, are made in the state of Louisiana.
Well, I can think of two, you know, HBO series that are just wonderful, like the True Detective, the first True Detective, filmed almost entirely in Lafayette, Louisiana, and then you have Treme, which was filmed, you know, in New Orleans. There's something, they've got a formula there that's working, and I've also noticed that with the state of Tennessee, they're really good about, you know, tax breaks for film companies coming in. They make it easy for a film company to come in and do the work without all the red tape, and you know, I hope we bring this business that's so uniquely American back home, because you know what it can do to transform a small town. You bring a
well, there used to be a major motion picture studio in southeast Kansas.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there used to be a lot of filming that occurred.
That's really neat.
You know, but you know, Hollywood took a lot of that away.
Yeah.
And you know, while there's still a lot of stuff that's done there, Hollywood is not the same as it was.
Yeah.
And you can tell that by just kind of watching. You know, you can see a difference in the whole dynamics of a movie or a TV show.
Yeah.
And then you go back, because what we show here on TV5 is a lot of nostalgic programming. A lot of it, you know, from the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Right.
And you can see a huge difference.
Oh my gosh.
And I hear this all the time from people that they really enjoy watching that older programming.
It's so funny you bring that up, because I watched Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte for the first time in my entire life, and I sat there eyes glued to the camera. You know, you got Betty Davis, and I think it's Olivia de Havilland was her counterpart, and I'm like, this is a fantastic film, or a film like Laura, any of Hitchcock's earlier work. I mean, it's the quality and the narrative, night and day from what we see today.
Well, and then their technical style.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned Alfred Hitchcock. Not only is he a fantastic writer, producer, but he was a very creative, dynamic director.
Right.
And he did not believe in Zoom or any of that kind of stuff. So they wanted to fade out, and they go, no, we don't fade out to anything. So his habit, his trademark, was when he closed a scene and opened up a new one, he would have that physically move the camera into the character until it basically blacked itself out.
Right. Psycho, the very beginning scene of Psycho, when you're going through that hotel window, you know, and it just, and then you see Mel Brooks do that later in some of his films as well. Yeah, I mean, just genius, you know, those long tracking shots. And, you know, you're starting to see directors go back to that more, you know, that whole, you know, in one shot, you know, and that's really exciting to see. I don't know if you're a big fan of Billy Wilder, but Sunset Boulevard, I think one of the greatest American films of all time. And I agree with you, there is just such a difference between what we're getting in the theater and, you know, and the old films. But maybe I'm just a dork. I don't know. I think it's probably that. But
yeah. But you know, I greatly enjoyed working on West Side Story. I felt a totally different sense of enthusiasm and adrenaline, if you will, working on a stage.
Oh yeah, you never know what's going to happen from moment to moment.
You know, I'm totally transparent to anybody out there, but I was in tune with everything on the stage.
Yeah.
And you know, we would have to fix problems. We would have to fix an actor's mistake. You know, and we were always on our toes.
Oh my gosh.
You know, looking for stuff. If you know, in West Side Story, there's a lot of gang fighting and that kind of stuff going on. So if an actor dropped the switchblade, they got to continue on with their acting.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no cut. And then
yeah.
okay, now let's take it again.
Right.
You've got to keep going.
Yep.
So, you know, like from a stage crew's perspective, it's like, okay, now we got an open switchblade laying on the stage that has to be retrieved. So, you know, you only have about 30 seconds of dark before the next scene starts. So you got a crew of people that is striking a set off, and a crew of people that is simultaneously putting the next scene together.
Right.
Then somebody has to pick up the switchblade and get it off the stage.
Right.
All in the dark.
Yeah, it's an Olympic triathlon in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, and
but it's what's exciting, I think, about
I
it.
was just saying, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
You know, and I always look forward to it. To me, that was my scene.
Yeah.
You know, that piece of equipment or that piece of stage, that was mine.
Well, you know, and in theater, you know, you said it. Like, if you look back on, like, you know, like working on a movie crew, it's that hurry up and wait. You know, you know, it takes forever to set up a shot, and you just wait. You know, and you're talking to people, and you know, it takes half a day to get a shot set up. You know, and then it's off to the next thing. With the theater, I completely agree. You got to be on your toes. You know, it's one of those things.
And the show goes on no matter what.
And the show goes on no matter what.
The biggest heartbreak for me on the West Side Story was not only the last show. I mean, it was exciting, but it was sad.
It's hard
at the
to say
same
goodbye
time.
to everybody.
And there was a lot of tears. There's a lot of emotion, mostly with the crew or the cast. But the most heartening thing for me was when we did the final strike of the set, and they opened up the back doors to the stage, and there's two huge trash bins, the big long ones that the semi-truck brought up. And then off to the side, there was all these chainsaws and all this stuff. And it's like, I almost like cried.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know, it's like, tear it all down. We got 2 hours to take everything. And it's like, I want this. I want to keep this.
Right, right,
No,
yeah.
It all got torn up, cut up, and thrown in these dumpsters.
Yep.
And if it did not get cut up into small enough pieces, you had to dig it back out and cut it again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I see. You know, as a costume designer, you know, that's my major design discipline. I always have actors come up to me and say, "Hey, can I keep this? You know, this piece of clothing and stuff like that." And you know, it's so hard to tell them no. You know, this goes back into costume storage. You know, and
They don't save anything.
yeah, it just becomes a part of another show or completely.
And
goes
that's
away.
what I think. It says this show, start taking over the stage tomorrow. There's a lot of useful materials.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
That's a totally different production. They got all their own stuff, because everything is built before it goes to the real stage.
Yeah.
And then it's all, you know, fine-tuned and everything. But, I mean, they don't really make a lot of that
Right.
at the stage they're going to perform on.
Right.
Because there's something going on constantly on these big stages.
Oh my gosh, these touring shows.
You know, and the movie industry, the TV industry has become the same way. You know, it's just like, I used to collect a lot of movie films, the actual reels of
yeah.
movies. They would come on 3 to 5 reels of 35mm film. And about 20 years or so ago, again, you say 20 years ago, and that seems like a long time.
I know.
But that was 1995.
Yeah, it's
And
like
to me,
yesterday to me.
Yeah, it's like, I can't grasp the 1995 separation yet.
Right.
But when you tell me it was 20 years ago, I see that separation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I say 20 years ago, it seems like a long time. But I say 1995, so it just seems like yesterday.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So anyway, the film industries, it used to be that they would just drill a hole through the film and throw it away.
Oh, now see, I didn't even know that. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
And collectors would do what they call trash diving. I wasn't a trash diver. I would buy them, you know, and I paid a little bit more. Well, they got it for free for digging it out and putting it back together. And but you know, I had a projector at home and I had these, and I just loved that, you know, like feeding it through all the spools and going through that. And the one hole through that frame wasn't even noticeable because the film travels at 24 frames per second, and they were only putting a hole in one frame, you know, all the way through to the core. Now, when you got down to the bottom, it was a little bit more. Yeah. And you saw the little flickers every once in a while, but that didn't destroy the film. So now what they started doing is they take a bandsaw and they can cut the film in half. Oh, wow. It's totally useless. And, you know, I had a friend back then that was his job, is that he was to take all the films as they came back in from the theaters, and there were thousands of them, and just basically run them through. He was the executioner. Yes. And, you know, he was taking Academy Award-winning films, and he was destroying them. That's so sad. But if he got caught even taking a strip of film cells, he was fired. Wow. You know, and it's almost like they made an accountability. You talk about wardrobe, you talk about props and things like that. Actors are forbidden from taking that kind of stuff. Yeah. But they do it anyway. Yeah. I've had that happen too. Shoes disappear quite frequently. And I understand it, you know, because with things like eBay and Amazon and things like that, you don't want that piece of memorabilia getting out and somebody else profiting on it. Oh, right. Let alone just getting out there. Especially, you know, when let's take something for instance, you know, like Spider-Man. Yeah. The movie Spider-Man. I had an opportunity to go on set with that, and I was absolutely amazed at the set. The tall skyscraper building that Spider-Man basically scaled was only a model 10 feet tall. Wow. Wow. And it came in like 16 different pieces. And a lot of it is like that. It's like the facade. Yeah. Like in theater, you paint a lot of facades. Oh, yeah. Where there's nothing behind it, you know, but a board that's holding it up. The film industry is a lot like that as well. More so in the older films than it is now with CGI and computers and that type of thing. But it was interesting being able to walk through these studios and the prop rooms and that kind of thing, and look at this stuff and say, this looks terrible. Right. You know, and it's just like, okay, you know, I look at a little spaceship from Star Wars or Star Trek, you know, and it's like, seriously? Yeah. You know, so it ruins that. Well, the magical, the magical. So, you know, I can see why they don't want stuff like that out there and that type of thing. And not only that, some of it has true meaning. Mm-hmm. It's just like the TV series Lost. Oh, yeah. When it ended, they made it very clear all along that none of the crew or cast was allowed to take anything. And I think it was Michelle Rodriguez. I believe it was. It may not have been her. It might have been the other girl. It was one of the two top women in the series. Took an artifact that she was in love with, and she snuck it away, and she had it in her apartment or her house or whatever, and it got burglarized. Oh, no. And you can guess what happened. Yeah. And now they have no idea where this thing is. Wow. And they wanted that item for something else. Oh. And she had to fess up that she took it, and it got stolen, and they have no idea where it is. That's very sad. It's those kind of moments like that. I mean, that's very sad. And then, you know, in the theater side, you know, you've got props that, you know, you want to keep. Right. You know, as a memorabilia out of it. If nothing else, it's just that little souvenir piece has meaning. Right. I mean, you know, for the size of Neosho County Community College, we're given a generous budget. Like, we're really supported, you know, by the university community, and
But we have to, when I'm buying props or we're building scenic elements, I'm constantly thinking, how can we use this in the next show? And so
especially on a budget concept,
absolutely,
how can we reuse this?
How can we reuse this? How do we reconfigure this, for another show? So I've constantly got to kind of be thinking in that direction, because the more you do that, then the more you can, the more money you save, and the more you can kind of splurge in different areas. So I like to be really creative. Like, I'm always thinking about the next show in terms of the design of the first show. Not that I design around that, but I'm like, oh, now we can use these platforms again in this way, and so you got to be creative, and that's hopefully one thing that I'd like to see different at Neosho County Community College, is that we build a sizable costume stock. And we build like more Hollywood flats, which are the hard flats and things like that, and kind of update a little bit. Emily did a fantastic job. She left me in a really great position, and she's still only a phone call away. She's just been terrific. So I inherited a good situation, but what's been a challenge is all of her students have graduated.
Yep.
So we have a new crew coming in, and I really didn't get a chance to recruit. Thank goodness I got some really good students, and I continue to meet good students and students that are interested. But we're just challenged size-wise right now, and so we're having to think about practicality and things like that. But I think we picked a couple really good shows. One of the shows that we are doing at the end of this semester, and we're partnering with the music department with Alan Murray. I don't know if you have had a chance to meet Alan Murray.
I wasn't aware that the college had a music program.
It does, and actually Alan Murray is a Grammy award-winning artist.
Really?
Yeah, and he's right in our backyard. But we're partnering on a project. It's a Wonderful Life. So we're going to show portions of the film. Some of the stories going to be told like as a 1940s radio show. And then the music department is going to do music play the score. So
it's like a real
right, and hopefully it's an interactive audience thing too. That we want the audience to be able to sing along with that, and that's what I kind of really want to do. Is I want plays for the Chanute community. I want plays that reflect our values and what interests us, and hopefully I can do that. Like one of the things I'd like to try to do is send out a survey to our audience members, our seasoned subscribers, and say, hey, what shows would you like to see, the next year,
Right.
Because, we got to remember, who our audience is, who we're performing for, and provide, entertainment that they want to see. I was just shown the Memorial Auditorium, and I'm talking to reports right now, and what a gorgeous space, And so Alan and I are my music counterpart. Right now we're throwing around musical ideas, and so yeah, we got a lot of big plans, but it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed being here so far. I just, I hope I've been left with huge shoes to fill. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good because the theater department at the college has got a good reputation.
Yeah.
And while that's difficult to maintain coming in,
yeah.
It's like, oh my God, now I got to maintain this.
Right.
You're already thinking of new and different ways
right.
to do things, so that's going to capture. The attention is like, oh, this is kind of interesting.
And I believe Emily would want that. I mean, like she really put a lot of love in that department. And I think, any artist, including myself, when I leave a program, I want it to build, I want it to grow, I want it to change. If we stay stagnant, stay doing the same thing, we're not growing.
Right.
We're not servicing the community or our students.
Yep, exactly. Now tell us a little bit more about Frankenstein.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Originally, when I first, I was going through catalogs for plays. I was looking for small casts, and I came across Frankenstein by Rick Averill, who is an award-winning, famous playwright that is from Lawrence. He's a pretty big deal. So it was nice to find a playwright from Kansas, and that's another thing as a sidetrack. I want to do one season where we do a complete season devoted to Kansas playwrights, from Edgar Lee Masters to William Inge, but that's another side thing. But
Bloody Benders.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
That's a cast that'll kill you.
Yeah, right. But I was expecting an adaptation of Mary Shelley's novel condensed. That's what I was expecting. This story uses a lot of elements from Mary Shelley's novel, but it's different. It's a little bit more. It kind of melds the contemporary, like modern day, with the pre-Victorian Romantic period.
Well, I was going to say, when Universal first made Frankenstein, it was more the monster, if you will, was the protagonist in the show.
Yeah.
And you came to love him.
Yeah.
And the scene at the lake with the little girl.
Right.
She did not become frightened. She saw him as a being.
Yeah.
That had a heart and had a passion and really wasn't mean or cruel or evil at all.
Right. And there are versions and adaptations of Frankenstein that really get to what you're talking about. What was particularly interesting about Averill's version is, to me, it was topical. Now we have, and we were just talking about this last night as a cast, you have, stem cell research and regeneration of limbs and, all the controversy now with Planned Parenthood and organ harvesting and all of these different things. And I think this story really hits on, the dangers of that. When we begin to mess with and manipulate the natural progression of life, and when we start playing God, and the consequences of that, and so the creature is you see him, you see his struggle with being a natural feeling of not being, being a composite of different people. And that alienated effect, and the dangers of manipulating with and messing with nature. I think that's the theme that I
Right.
really was drawn to for this particular version.
Yeah,
So,
around the basis of a mad scientist.
oh yeah, absolutely.
And perhaps sometime you can take the two interests and the two elements and create a story called Frankenstein, the Teenage Zombie.
There you go. There you go. What an undertaking. We'll have to sit down and you and I can write that script.
We'll put that together.
We'll put that together, and after we do the stage version, we might do a filmed version of that.
And then they can write the book.
Chanute would be the perfect place to do it. We've got
Chanute
is
is a treasure chest waiting to be unlocked.
That's what I was thinking too. It's like the quintessential American downtown, like downtown. And there's so many great buildings and interesting architecture here. I'm a jogger. I like to run. So my route is I go around the community college and then I go down Highland Street, which is always a treat with these
Highland
houses.
is that's the heart of the nostalgic
Oh my gosh.
Victorian era.
And my eyes are always this big. It doesn't matter how many times I run past it, And then I come up through the downtown, and that's what really drew me to this job and to this community was just that small town feel, because I felt like I was going back to my roots, And I see so much potential, and I just hope Chanute doesn't become one of those fatalities of all these great little small towns that are drying up, And it's just so sad. It seems like there's this flight from rural America back into the cities, and we lose that small town community feel. But I can think of so many different locations that would be just perfect for films here. I don't know about you, but like
every place you go, there's an opportunity.
You got it.
Every house, every building, everything I look at, it is always an opportunity.
Right. Right.
I can think of I can do this here. I can make this here. I can film this here. I was in Iola recently to tour the old hospital they're getting ready to tear down.
Oh, okay.
And as I'm walking through this, I see the different phases that were built, up to I think about 1990. But you can still tell the parts that were built way back when,
right,
back in the 50s. And I'm looking at this as like in its decaying form, is like, well, this is a perfect set to do this in. And
yeah.
And it's being knocked down. And it just like, give me a month.
Yeah.
Give me 30 days, okay?
Right.
And
let me have access. Yeah.
But I mean, we've got buildings and structures here in Chanute, in southeast Kansas, that can be utilized. I mean, you mentioned downtown, and you get a first impression, and you look and you visualize. When I see our downtown section, the 40s and 50s jump out at me.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
You know, and I look at these upstairs areas, and I just think back, what was it like in the 20s, 30s, and 40s? Those are where the private eyes, the attorneys, the doctors, the dentists, those offices.
Right, absolutely.
Were up there.
Yeah.
And this little general store, this little, little narrow, small little general store with the upstairs. Well, the owner of that store lived up there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's just, there's just such a nostalgic element that exists here.
A little change in the facades of the buildings, and you've got it. You said it exactly right. You know, one thing that I really enjoy are these brick streets here. You know,
and you know, it's a roller coaster ride to drive down them.
Right, right.
But there are still original, and they can become more and more rippled. You know, and it's good that they have developed that historical element of Chanute with the streets, the cobblestone. You know, trying to maintain as much of it in that historical aspect as possible, because it's so easy to get that hometown feel from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the story.
I agree.
So back to your productions, you got Frankenstein, which is going to be when?
It runs October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. So it's a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday. Okay. And performances are at 7:30. Yeah. I tried to match it up with that, and the show lasts about an hour, and I think within that hour there is going to be a lot of spectacle and a lot of action. So I think it'll be a.
And where's the play going to be?
It's going to be. I've decided to do this first play at Sanders Auditorium. You know, as I'm new and I'm trying to figure things out.
Right. Stay on your own turf for a while.
Stay on my own turf for a while, and but I want to broaden, you know, the venues eventually, and I want to utilize Memorial more, because I think it gives the students a real sense of like performing on that big stage. I mean, there's quite a difference between Sanders.
There's a lot of history in that.
Oh
that
my
auditorium.
gosh, it's a beautiful place, and Ruth Ports and the city has done so great, like maintaining it, and I'm just blown away by that space. So yeah, and then so then we do A Wonderful Life. It'll also be.
So that'll be over the holidays.
It'll be over the holidays. It's you know, you'll have to forgive me. I can get back with you on this. You should be able to check the face page for the theater department, but it's a joint collaboration between music and theater, and it runs on a Sunday. I believe it's like December 6th, if that's the Sunday.
It's only a one performance?
It's only a one performance deal.
Oh, wow.
And afterwards there's going to be kind of like cookies and punch and that kind of thing. We really want to make it, you know, Christmassy and fun, and so that'll kind of end the fall semester. And then we're working out right now the tentative dates for George Orwell's 1984. And
that's going to be. I see that as. I mean, you got your work cut out for you. On
oh
that.
yeah. Luckily, I've got a great script, and we're going to use some avant-garde, you know, multimedia elements. But again, it's one of those plays right now that's topical. Like, you know, how much do we let the government into our lives and things?
Well, and just the whole philosophy. I mean, when that was written about the future for 1984. And remembering the 80s, you know, and it's kind of like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Okay? It was actually written and produced in the 80s. And this is one of my pet peeves, if you will, is I got a little bit of a problem with Spielberg right now. And have a chance to talk face to face, which will never happen, then I'm going to let my feelings be known.
There you go.
But I'm very disappointed that he did not capitalize on the opportunity that recently passed, May 15th, 2015. Now, for the serious Back to the Future fans, that is the date they punched in to the flux capacitor to move forward to.
Right.
I don't understand why we didn't have some big thing for Back to the Future on that date.
Right, yeah.
It just blows me away.
Yeah, that's an opportunity that's missed.
Yeah, and I mean, Facebook was lit up with all kinds of rumors about this is happening, that's going to happen, and whatever, and news media and all that kind of stuff. Try to get some information. They were tight-lipped about everything. That just added to the mystery.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, they're going to come up with something really, really big.
Yeah.
And then May came and went with nothing.
Well, in an interesting counter point to what you just said is, David Lynch's Twin Peaks that ran in the 80s. It had an abrupt ending, and we were all left with like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Like, who shot J.R.?
Yeah, but in the series, it mentions that they'll see us again 25 years later, and Showtime announces they're filming the third season of Twin Peaks 25 years later. So there's an instance where somebody capitalized on that, and it'll be interesting to see David Lynch go back to that environment and revisit Twin Peaks.
It's difficult to revive an old show.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Very difficult. It can be done, but I think there are more failures than successes.
Oh, yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens, for sure.
But yeah, I think we're going to start seeing more and more attempts.
Yeah.
Because our society seems to have a thirst for that 70s, 80s era. Especially the not even youth, the coming middle-aged people that weren't alive back then.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we're talking mid-70s was 40 years ago. Okay, mid-80s, 30 years ago.
Right.
Okay, we got a
Quit
large
reminding me
population.
of this. I'm starting to feel really old right now.
And so, if you didn't grow up on Dallas, Twin Peaks, Knots Landing, all those
Hill
shows,
Street Blues.
Hill Street Blues, a lot of those that they're trying to bring life back to, it probably, as long as they do it right, will work.
Yeah, it's just, can they do it right?
Can they do it right, and can they meet today's viewers' expectations?
Right.
Because what they filmed in the 70s and 80s had a different mentality than what we have today.
Oh, yeah, the sensibilities completely changed.
But our society, talk about fashions, we're starting to see images of the 70s reappear.
Oh, yeah.
And, to the...
And before that, we saw the 80s. We saw there was like a period where we were seeing a little bit of 80s.
A little bit of the 80s. The 90s was the lost era.
Yeah.
Then we have the millennium, but they're the current active group.
Right.
But, yeah, to me, the oldies is the 50s. To the youth today, the oldies is the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hate to hear that. I'm a 75 baby, and I hate to hear that. But it's interesting to turn on the radio, and you're on the oldies station, and you hear Kurt Cobain and Nirvana as an oldies band, and I still think their sound is as contemporary as ever. And it's just...
I mean, I have an ID for each of the different decades.
Yeah.
To me, the oldies are the 50s. 60s was the surfer era. 70s was the classic rock disco era.
Oh, yeah.
70s was the Valley Girl pop.
Yeah.
90s was a era of confusion.
Absolutely.
And then
we're kind of transitioning from the hair band into something
just
different.
Like, they didn't know what they wanted.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
there was a lot of
where
angst.
do we go from here?
Yeah, a lot of angst.
So I think the 90s was a lost decade.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it seems that there's a lot more identity.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think they've found a new groove that people are into. We got Aerosmith becoming a country star. We've got rappers becoming this. We've got, country stars becoming rock and roll heads. Everybody's doing
Taylor
something.
Swift, what an example there. Somebody who started off as country,
and then
even Katy Perry, started in Christian radio, and now it's completely something different. It's really,
there's a lot of them in the Christian sector that are transitioning into the new era.
Yeah.
Contemporary.
Yeah.
Where they're still a Christian group, but the music caters more towards
a broader base.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do see that, and hopefully you can take advantage of an opportunity to go to one of the concerts at Firescape downtown.
Yeah, yeah. I keep hearing about this, and
yeah, you definitely need to go to Rapture Ruckus and Flume in October.
I'll definitely check that out.
They're from New Zealand, and they are an A-lister in New Zealand.
Okay.
Okay, so they have won multiple what we would call Grammys in
the New Zealand
in
version.
New Zealand.
Right.
And I mean, they perform in New Zealand. They'll perform in front of audiences, 60, 80,000 people.
Wow.
You know, and that's their caliber. When they come and tour the United States, they are performing 20 to 30,000 people.
Yeah.
But they have ties here in Chanute that allows them to come out of their way, based on their tour route, and perform for 200 people.
Oh, that's really great.
In a small environment.
That's really, really
and
great.
give us the same show
that you're getting.
That they're getting out there. And you know, that, I'm sure you tell your actors the same way, but you know, when I was teaching acting, I would tell them, I said, you give a performance the same way that you would give it to 1 million people
as you would 5 people.
For one person.
Yep, I completely agree with that.
Because it's you that's that performance.
Right.
Okay.
So I really like that. That's we're on the same page there.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
I think we can team up and do a lot of things.
We will.
We're conniving now.
Yeah, as soon as I get settled into all my job duties, you know, it's you know, I left the 4-year. I'm going to be honest with you. I left a 4-year environment thinking that it was going to be easier to transition to community college. And I'll tell you something. They work hard over there, and the hours that I watch my colleagues spend, from Mindy Ayers, my next door neighbor, to Alan, to I believe his name is Brad, the art teacher. I hope I'm saying his name right. I mean, these guys are here when I get to work, and they're here when I leave, and it's just something you don't see at a 4-year institution. You know, people check out at 5. We'll see you later.
You know why? You go to a major university, you're just a number.
Ah, it's a very good point.
You come to a small town, a junior college, you're a person.
You're a person, and we have that time to really invest in the students.
And you get to know every one of your students.
Yeah.
In a major university, you're a professor and you don't know any of your students.
Yeah.
And then you don't even look at your students' papers. You've got your teacher's assistants.
Oh my gosh.
And your interns that are working on their thesis that are doing all the work for them.
Yeah, I mean, community college, if you're a true teacher, is the perfect environment. And at Neosho Community College, County Community College, they really emphasize the student. You know, that is the core of what we do. And when I heard that in my interview, I knew this was the place I wanted to be, because you know, I'm myself. I'm a first generation college student from Kansas. Came from a very blue collar family. I can relate with a lot of the students here. I know what their parents are going through, and I know the challenges of being that first generation and not maybe having that that kind of cultural background. You know, like, and that's something completely new. But these kids amaze me. How fast they learn, how willing they are to learn. And just watching my colleagues, like, personally spend the time with each student individually. I mean, this is a great product we offer there, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. I really am.
Well, I think we're very blessed to have you.
Well, I feel that way, and I appreciate that. I really do. I'm excited. You know, somebody asked me, "Well, Dusty, how long do you plan to stay here?" I mean, you taught at a 4-year. You're young. You know, like Chanute's kind of slow, right? And I'm like, no, it's not. It's, every community needs art. You know, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in Chicago, or Kansas City, or Chanute, Kansas, you need to have good art. And my goal is to build a solid theater department where kids from Wichita or Tulsa or Kansas City, say, hey, there's really great stuff going on at Neosho County Community College in their theater department. Let's go there before we make that jump to the University of Kansas, or something like that.
Well, when I read your bio, and it's like everything about you, it's like, how did he end up here?
Yeah, well, I think that the thing is I wanted to get back closer to family. My family is from the Kansas City area. My brother and my sister-in-law, my grandparents, and my parents live at Lake of the Ozarks, or Osage Beach in Missouri.
Oh, that's where my dad lived.
Right, and I was teaching at East Missouri State University. I taught there for 1 year, and I thought I was getting back closer, but as you know, there's no route from the boot hill.
getting around, and you
to
got
get
to know
Kansas
where you're
City.
going.
Absolutely, it takes 6 hours. That's as far away almost as I was when I was in Maryland. I mean, not really, but you know what I'm trying to say.
And if you stay there in the wintertime, you better plan on staying there.
Right.
Because they don't plow those roads, or
No.
you get snowed in. That's one of the things that drove my dad out of that
Right,
area.
right.
They got snowed in. He was stuck for a month.
Yeah. You're totally right.
He was running out of food, and
Yeah.
he didn't know what he was going to do. And
It can be pretty treacherous there. But what was the chance to come home, come back to Kansas, and I'd been pigeonholed for so long doing costumes, I was beginning to get burned out.
Yeah.
And one of my passions was to direct and to act. So like this job was a perfect opportunity because it combined all of those areas. Now what I'm finding to be the challenge is like coordinating all those areas. And I think once I can learn how to coordinate those areas, and I've got tremendous support and help from a lot of people, and I can think of even today, I've so many people have helped me. I think once I can master that coordination that Emily, did so well, I think it'll be a lot of fun. But right now, I'm just trying to keep up. I'm trying to keep one step ahead, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And
and you never stop learning.
No, but I'm so glad to be in Kansas. You're gone and you leave, and you think when you're like 18, gosh, I want to get away. And Kansas, what's going on in Kansas? But you go out and you work on the East Coast, and you forget how nice it is to be in a town where you can leave your front door open.
Yes.
Not saying that that's what I do.
But if you forget and you leave your garage door open, or you leave your car unlocked, it's like, oops, I did that. And the first thing that keys into my mind is like, oh, thank God I'm not living in Tampa anymore.
Yeah, right.
Now, my car wouldn't be here.
Right.
My garage would be emptied. And I was talking to somebody yesterday on that very subject about, when they grew up, they had no concerns about letting their kids ride the bicycles
at
and
night,
just
clear
take
to
off,
9 o'clock.
And if that, as long as they were back by the time the sun got down,
right,
everything was good.
Right.
But in large cities today, you can't trust having your child out playing in the street in front of your house.
Yeah, no.
And you got to keep
You're
a
exactly
close eye
right.
on them. And that's what makes small town living, I think, a lot more valuable.
Yeah.
And something that I think that most people don't appreciate.
Right, and you know what? When I get to feel like I'm, getting a little cabin fever, I mean, all you have to do is hit the road. You're in Wichita in an hour and a half. You're in Kansas City in an hour and a half. You're in Lawrence.
And that sounds like such a long time. Oh, that's an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh,
but I'm
it's
going to tell you
nothing.
something. If you live in a large city,
You're going to
it's
spend
going to take you
Los
an hour and a
Angeles,
half just
absolutely.
to get you up to the other side of the town.
You're right. You spend half the
If
day in
not
your car.
more.
Yeah, especially in Los Angeles.
In LA, you have, instead of planning 2 hours to get to the airport, you're going to have to plan 3 to 4 hours to get to the airport.
Right.
And that's just to get to the airport.
Yeah.
Then you got to find parking. Then you got to find the right tram that's going to get you to the right terminal. And then you got to find the gate that you need to be going to. And then you have to get on another tram. And
well, yeah, and even here's the
take
deal.
Take a trip.
I can go to Johnson County and do shopping, and I don't have to live there, thank goodness. I can come back to a place where there's just not such a rush and hustle and bustle, and the value of that is so important.
And, people might think that they live a stressful life in a small town, and, there's stresses that are associated, but there's a lot more stress in a large town.
Oh, wow.
The traffic, for me, it's the traffic. And it's
traffic.
the people, it's the congestion, it's the attitude.
I agree.
Hands down, I'll take Walmart in a small town any day.
Me too. Or a trip to Aldi's in Pittsburgh. I mean, listen, it's great, and there's a lot of history. This area is rich with history, and what's great is like you can drive to Pittsburgh, and you stop 2 or 3 times for historical markers, and you drive through these little towns like St. Paul and Erie, and there's just something about it. I really connect to it, and I think that's my Kansas roots. Yeah.
Take some back roads now and then, and you come up with this old rickety bridge or this old barn, and just stop and appreciate that, and let your mind evolve. Like, wow, picture people there.
Yeah.
And when that bridge was built, they were pulling themselves by horses and a trailer.
You said it. Yeah.
And it just evolved around that.
Yeah, no, it's great, and everybody's been so welcoming here, and it's even gotten to the point my parents love to come visit because, people just really take time to try to, to get to know you, and it's so different, and I'm so glad to be back. So I just want to, I've been given this great opportunity, and I want to deliver a product in terms of entertainment and theater that this community and that this college deserves. And if I'm not doing that, I'm not doing my job. So so I'm going to work really hard and try to bring you guys some really great entertainment.
Well, I think it's very exciting, and I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, don't be surprised if I ask you to appear in a show.
Okay. I will look forward to it.
All right, great.
And
well,
we'll
we're going to need some bodies.
Being here a lot more, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk more.
Okay,
yeah.
and we got 2016 ahead, and I think it's going to be a very exciting year.
I hope so. I'm ready for a new year. So, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in.
Hey, it's great talking to you, and
Chanute.
it's great to make another friend.
You betcha.
Again, you prove how nice people are here, and remind me how lucky I am. So,
Very good.
thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day.